Welcome back. I'm Mel Stimpson. We're here with video 3 of Born to Fly Law School video series. A series that's here to help you through your 1L year, get you ready for that tough year that everyone's always talking about. Today we're going to be doing our Substantive Dynamics class-by-class survey part 2. We'll be talking about contract law, constitutional law, property law, and also legal research and writing. So here, again, is the author of Born to Fly, Emmanuel Obi.
All right.
It's going.
Okay, so we're back talking about our class-by-class surveys. We talked about it in the last video. I just wanted to kind of do an overview to give everybody a sense of what the first year classes that you're going to be taking, what to expect in those classes, and how to really prepare. And like we did in the last video, we're going to do it Q&A style. We've got Mel here who's getting ready to embark upon this law school process, and so this is kind of helpful for him as a review. But again, we wanted to make these resources available to anybody who may be getting ready to start law school or in that same position. So we're going to be talking about contracts, we're going to be talking about property, we're going to be talking about con law and legal research and writing. So Mel, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, so with contract law, what exactly is contract law? What are we getting ourselves into with this required course? And also, why is it required in the first place?
Yeah. Well, as we talked about before, law school is not really made to teach you the law per se, but it is made to kind of teach you some foundational principles or some foundational law that then kind of carries through in a variety of other legal spaces or legal landscapes. The classes that you're taking first year are all courses that will lay that foundation. Contracts. Contracts is extremely, extremely important for a number of reasons. Why? How many of you can think of any situation or any transaction that you've entered into that didn't have a contract? Many of you have apartments. That apartment is governed by a lease, which is a contract. When you go and buy something on credit, that's a contract. When you hire somebody to do a service for you, a lot of times you have them sign a contract. What is a contract? I think a contract is probably the one legal concept that most people come to law school with a pretty good understanding of because we've had personal experience with it. But a contract is really an agreement that sets forth a deal that two people have reached. I agree to do X in exchange for your agreement to do Y. That's essentially what a contract is. Contracts was probably my favorite class, and that may probably make sense and why a substantial amount of my work here at the Obi Law Firm is transactional work, helping small businesses with a lot of issues, many of them having to do with contracts. What is a contract? It's an agreement that sets forth the terms that people have come to about a deal or about a transaction or about a certain type of arrangement or something along those lines. It is a very straightforward class because the analysis is very linear. And when I say that the analysis is very linear, it's very step by step. When you'll get into and start studying it, different teachers will approach it different ways. Some teachers will teach it in an order where it's very logical, where you start with an offer. Do you even have an offer? Okay, well, do you have an acceptance? Assuming you have an offer and you have an acceptance, do you have consideration? If you have an offer and acceptance and consideration, then you get into the performance, you get into all sorts of other issues. So I like contracts because it was very, very linear, and it just was something that intuitively, with somebody with a business background, made a lot of sense to me. What else you got for me, Mel?
So in dealing with contract law, what's the best way to prepare for this course? Yeah, what's the best way to prepare for this course?
The best way to prepare for contracts is to, again, remember, first of all, ask yourself where you are in the contract analysis. Because as I said before, contracts is a very linear process. There's a very linear set of elements that generally go in sequence to create a valid contract. Then assuming you have a contract, a lot of times the next question is, well, has one of the parties breached the contract? Then assuming one of the parties has breached a contract, is there an applicable defense? Assuming that there isn't an applicable defense, what are the damages and what are the limitations to damages? So you see that the analysis is very linear. So step one, you have to figure out where are you in the course of the analysis. Some professors will start their contracts discussion with damages, which is a little bit out of order in terms of the natural analytical process of contracts, but you have to realize that and keep in mind where you are in the big scheme of things. The other thing to keep in mind is that contracts is a class that you'll really be able to bring forth a lot of your personal experience in. So think about contracts that you've entered. Think about contracts that other people have wanted you to enter. And a lot of times when you focus on those situations and just oppose that to the law or to what you're learning, it makes it a lot easier to understand.
All right, that's good. So next course will be property law. Now, what is property law? Could you give kind of a fact pattern to this area of law to help us understand? And also, same question, how will I be able to, what's a good way for me to prepare for this course?
Yeah, property law is another one of those foundational classes. It's a class that will teach you all about the rules and the principle and the philosophies and the policies that go into property ownership, property usage, property sale. In your first year property class, you're really going to be introduced to a lot of different theories of property ownership. The different historical kind of, the evolution of the jurisprudential landscape as it relates to property. Then you'll go into some modern day issues, things dealing with like adverse possession, things dealing with like trespass, nuisance, or rights that you have as a property owner against other people coming onto your property, or liabilities that you have as a property owner in terms of what happens or people getting hurt on your property. So the thing to keep in mind about property is that it's really about the relationship between one's ownership of land and other people, and either the liabilities or the obligations that you will owe those people based on that ownership. Again, a foundational course in that a lot of other things, whether it be estate planning or whether it be advanced classes or commercial real estate transactions or any of these other advanced topics, will focus on and require a mastery of the basic theories as it relates to property.
Okay, constitutional law. What is constitutional law? How will I be able to prepare for it? And also, you say it's foundation, but I don't plan on being a Supreme Court justice or anything, so why do I need to know it? Why is this course required?
This course is required, and it's an interesting thing because we're in an era right now where we see, and you're coming into law school on the heels of what has been probably one of the most transformative sessions in terms of the Supreme Court decisions. Constitutional law is the body of law that deals with our constitutional protections. That is, protections that are so fundamental that they are protected by and incorporated and articulated in the Constitution. And it deals with the government's ability or any state actor's ability to deprive somebody of those rights. It's a very, very important class because this is the class that really speaks to the legal underpinnings of the democratic system and the capitalistic free world that we have all come to love and appreciate. It's the Constitution which really sets about the parameters within which we live and work, within which all of the commerce takes place, and within which all of these other things take place. So constitutional law is a very, very important class. Now I will tell you, in law school, constitutional law was was one of my favorite classes because the cases were always very interesting. There were cases that dealt with race, there were cases that dealt with various rights, there were cases that dealt with religion, with sex, with national origin, just all sorts of different cases. The thing about constitutional law that may be a little hard, unlike Civ Pro or unlike contracts or unlike property, is that it's an area of law that doesn't really lend itself to a clear-cut analytical framework. I.e., unlike the situation in crim law where your analysis is element-based, have I satisfied the elements of these crimes, element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4, or in contracts where you have a very linear analysis process. Do I have an offer? Assuming that I have an offer, have all the other elements of the contract been met? Assuming that I have a contract, Has it been breached? Assuming that the contract has been breached, are there damages? Con law is a bit amorphous. The issues are a little harder to grasp, and understanding how to go about analyzing is very case specific. So what does that mean for you? What that means is that your ability to do well in constitutional law is going to hinge on your intimate understanding of each case and how that case was decided, the majority opinion in the case, and also the dissenting opinion in the case. I had a fantastic constitutional law professor when I was at SMU. Her name was Professor Eads. Absolutely loved this woman. She was incredible. She could just, as she lectured, she would bring the facts and the issues in each case to life, and she would just speak so passionately about it. And I realized that the reason she did that was from an instructional standpoint. She really wanted us to focus on developing a case-by-case analysis and being able to take a fact pattern and take other cases with similar fact patterns and then construct a response that makes sense. So again, constitutional law, very important class. It's a little bit of a hard class because the analysis is not straightforward. And good thing is it's a class that you'll normally take your second semester of your first year. So you've got your first semester to kind of get your bearings on case reading, case briefing underway, and then you'll be able to tackle that. But very important class.
The last course we have today is legal research and writing. Now, how does this class differ from all the other classes we talked about in your own words? And also, what assignments should I expect from this class?
If there is any one class that I think is the most important class your first year, I would submit to you that is your legal research and writing class. But the problem and the issue that most students have is that legal research and writing is a class that they often spend the least amount of time preparing and the least amount of time working on because of all the other massive workload that comes with your other classes. Now let me tell you why. Whatever you do, whether you're a litigator or a corporate attorney, or you go into the public sector or you go into the private sector, regardless of whatever you do in the field of law, one thing is absolutely critical and one thing will remain the same, and that is you will be required to effectively communicate. And effectively communicating means not only verbal communication, but it also means written communication. And so you should really spend the time to understand how we write as lawyers, which is very different. You know, I came into law school, I had a creative writing kind of a background, and I did a lot of short stories, and actually Born to Fly was my attempt to kind of get back to some of my creative writing aspirations that I had prior to law school. But when you get to law school, the writing format and the writing structure is very formulaic. There is a very specific structure and a very specific way in which we attorneys articulate our findings or our analysis in a legal way. So you need to learn about that, and you need to learn how to really refine your legal writing, because it's that legal writing that's going to produce the work product on the basis of which your ability to get a summer job or offer will be contingent, and on the basis of which your ability to get permanent employment will be contingent. So legal research and writing will focus on things as introducing you to the various sources of law. Where do you go to find the law? Where do you go to pull the law? It will introduce you to the types of writing. You have a memo, which is pretty much objective and reciting of the facts and the analysis in a very objective way. And then you also have persuasive writing, which will come in the second semester generally when you're preparing a brief. And that's the type of writing that is at the core of the advocacy work that we as attorneys do. You're writing to convince a court to take a certain action or to take a certain thing. So there's different formats and different structures for those different types of writing, and you just need to keep that in mind. But absolutely, without a doubt, legal research and writing is probably the most critical class that you will have your first year. So that concludes this third video, Mel, is that right? Yep. Third video on substantive dynamics. I think we're coming to you next with some other stuff on day-to-day preparation and some other things that we feel that will be important and maybe helpful to you. As always, if you have any comments or questions, reach out to us. Hope that you're having a great time in law school. And remember, you were born to fly. Keep pushing, keep reading, get it done. See you later.